Hello, and welcome to Kentucky TextSet's Module 5, Effective TextSet Design, our final module in the series. I'm Dr. Angie Gunter, and I'll be walking you through the process of completing your TextSet Expert Pack or Book Basket. We're going to begin our work by looking at the product template. The template is Resource 1 in the Dig Deeper section, and it is a view-only document, so you'll need to make a copy. And then you can edit it, adding your own information into your copy. The first section of the template is pretty easy. It's self-explanatory. Feel free to enter your contact information if you'd like. I've heard from some teachers who've received emails from other teachers who've used their TextSets, and there is no greater feeling in the world than to be recognized for our work, right? But of course, feel free to leave it blank if you'd rather. I just want to take a minute to acknowledge the bravery of our teachers who put their work out there for others to see. We really try to promote these TextSets as products of professional learning developed by working classroom teachers and see this work as a reflection of their intentional implementation of instruction to address the 3 shifts in ELA. So whether you add your contact information or not, thank you so much for sharing with the teaching community. The next section is the essential question or questions portion. I think it's important to consider the abstract connections in formulating essential questions. Besides knowing the content, why do students need to read these texts grouped together? What opportunities for thinking and making connections can this grouping of media support? These are those broad, overarching themes that we want our kids to grapple with in this unit. Recall our process earlier of deciding on a topic. Consider how we might use this process to frame our essential questions as well. What from this work will students need to know for life, to be successful in other subject areas, or their next year of school, or for assessments and outside tests? The next section is a list of books and media included in the set. The template shows 2 books, 2 articles, 2 videos, and 2 other media, but these are just placeholders. You'll edit this document and add as many or as few as you have in each of these categories. Often, sets only include 1 book, an anchor novel or a textbook, and are accompanied by a varied number of print and non-print media. There is no number requirement for these. As you list them, hyperlink them if the resource is available online. This is a quick list of resources, and I've looked at many of these and love how easy it is for teachers to get a great idea of how to put text together to build knowledge. The next section of the template is the sequencing rationale, and we've combined it with the assessments portion. You'll see an example in red just to give you an idea of what your bulleted list might look like. Consider our sequencing model and list the text in order with a very brief rationale. Also, connect the tools and resources that you'll be using as you're able, if it's attachable. I use my template as an organizational tool. If I link all the resources that I and my students will need to this one document, I won't lose them. Everything is right there and accessible. When describing your sequence, consider using the qualitative measures rubrics for wording. You'll remember those are those rubrics for literary and informational texts, and they're listed in Resource 2 in the Dig Deeper section of this module. Since we don't only rely on the use of Lexile when determining which text to present before others, these rubrics can really help us decide and articulate reasons we've chosen to sequence as we have. Let's take a look at an exciting text set called Grossology. I know your eye is drawn to the Know Your Poop graphic, which is one of the infographics included in this set. After you've read and digested the poo picture, get it, digested? Sorry. Peel your eyes away from the infographic and take a minute to read through the quick list on the right side of your screen. Imagine you're presenting this set to your classes. What do you think their reaction would be? Well, I'll tell you, kids get really engaged. So I'm going to ask you to pause the webcast and find the Grossology text set document that's listed as Resource 3 in the Dig Deeper section. At the bottom of the first page of this document, read the sequencing rationale, and then respond to question 1 in the Think section. When you've finished your response, continue this webcast. In this section is where you'll also link activities or tools that you'll pair with each text. You wouldn't just pop the books down in front of the kids and say, "Here you go, just read," right? So in pages 9 through 15 of the Grossology text set, there are some activities described. Think about what will allow students to engage in the text and link those in your lists as you're able. If it's easier, you can copy and paste handouts to the end of this text set document, or create a Google folder and just drop the handouts into it. Take a few minutes and look through pages 9 through 15 of Grossology, and you may want to review Module 3, which are ways to access complex text. Pause the webcast now and continue after you've reviewed activities and responded to question 2 in the Think section. There are a couple of activities that I would like to highlight, and one is this rolling knowledge journal. I'm sure you noted how the journal could be an effective tool to promote metacognition among your students. As they continue to grow knowledge around the topic and read and view and listen to and apply information gathered to provide different experiences and perspectives around a topic, they use that journal to reflect upon and document their new learning. It provides a visual of how they are systematically building upon and adding to their current knowledge. This process encourages the synthesis of old information with new and will look different for each student. The other activity I'd like to highlight is the Rolling Vocabulary Journal. In it, students would select words they are not familiar with and write them in their journal. They would then consult their glossary, if you've provided one, or research to determine the meaning of their words, and then use them in a sentence. As they do this, after they do this, and they have text articles, lists, for all the articles in the text, they would select the 6 most important words among all of the words they've written, and then write a sentence or 2 using their newly acquired vocabulary in a summary or synthesis of their learning throughout the process. You can have Sensational 6 or Fabulous 5 or Fantastic 4. The number is not important, but the building of vocabulary among the related texts is clearly a benefit of the text set process that we want to capitalize and draw attention to, pointing out explicitly to students what they're learning and how. I think this is a good time to stop and consider the differences between the text sets and expert packs and book baskets. All 3 are actually text sets, but expert packs and book baskets can be designed for students to independently progress through them at their own pace. So I took the Grossology text set and gathered books, printed articles, attached QR codes for students to be able to access the online resources, and then I placed them in a library bag, labeling it Grossology. I then created a Word version and a HyperDoc of the progression. These are linked under Resource 4 in the Dig Deeper section. This set can be referred to as a book basket or a book bag, but I've designed it as an expert pack, and here's why. In the introduction, students are asked to progress through the text in order to complete the tasks that are matched to each text and non-text activity, and when they've completed it, they will earn their Grossologist certification, essentially demonstrating their expertise in Grossology. Think how your assignments would change when you offer students the resource to become experts in certain areas. Pause the webcast now and review the Grossology Word and HyperDoc and respond to question 3 in the Think section. Continue the webcast once you've responded to question 3. If you teach younger students, you might place resources in a basket or a bucket or a box and tell the students, here's a basket full of grossness, who wants to dive in? I've worked with elementary teachers who have their students read biographies of inventors to study the biography genre of writing. Why not take each of these biography books or articles and build some baskets around them to extend the students' learning? If kids are reading about George Washington Carver, you can include texts and pictures and videos and other activities about, say, the 13th Amendment and slavery, about school later in the 1800s, about botany and crop rotation, about the peanut industry, and it could be about the importance and impact of Carver's work. If you gather these, students could work their way through them in their independent reading time, and when they finish early with projects or tests, they'll never have that downtime. They'll always have something that they can be working on, and the reading that they'll be doing will be related, systematically growing their vocabulary and knowledge. The next sections are the pacing and the standards sections. For the pacing/timeline, simply estimate how long you anticipate the text set will take to teach. For the standards, we're going to prioritize and focus mostly on the culminating activity. You'll likely work on many standards as you progress through several varied texts, but consider which ones you'll be featuring in the final product. Let's think about what connections we want students to be able to demonstrate, what insights we hope they'll gain by the end of the set, and how we want them to share that understanding with us. We're recommending a culminating writing piece, but it might look different in different classes and content areas. If it is a writing, which writing standards will the final product center around? Which reading standards, which skills, will lead students to the ability to complete the prompt, whatever the prompt that you come up with is? Those are the ones that we'd like to see listed here, just those overarching ones. We love the example that LDC uses, represented by this stool graphic. Choose a content standard, a reading standard, and a writing standard that will work together to support the culminating activity. Include that standards language in the prompt. That way it's really clear to you and to your students which standards you'll be focusing on. My prompt might be for students to use information gained from illustrations, pictures, videos, maps, and text to describe George Washington Carver's accomplishments in agriculture, and state your opinion on which of his contributions had the most positive impact on society. Another consideration is the engaging quality of the culminating task. This is the biggest reason that this piece might not always be a writing piece. One way to foster engagement is to create authentic experiences for students, and so that others besides ourselves get to see what they're writing or creating. The photo on this slide is a group of students who are participating in a Shark Tank style event connected with the Lemonade War. The teacher invited people from the community into her classroom to judge their inventions. These kids really worked on their writing and practiced their presentations because real people, not just we teachers, were listening. So think about ways we can take our lessons outside of our classroom walls. The final section of the text set template is the annotated bibliography section. In red, you can see an example. Again, keep this brief, and the citation police is not going to come after you if you don't follow the APA or MLA format strictly. Just make sure the important information is present. You'll also want to consider artifacts. What would you like to feature? What would demonstrate students' learning and the processes they went through as they were learning? If you give permission for us to post your text set online, we'll need you to link those artifacts in your document so we can upload them. Again, we want to use this as a platform to share our learning with other classroom teachers and benefit from our common work. The last step in the process is the self-evaluation. I've placed the evaluation form in the Dig Deeper as resource number 5. Use it as a checklist as you're building your text set. The student performance section can be used as you're reviewing student work to formalize your observation and as a basis for revision for the text set process to recur. So that's it. If you can link everything to the text set template, that's all you need to submit. If you have items that you can't link, place them in a Google folder and share the link to the folder. After working with several groups in completing the text set process, we find the average amount of time to build the text set is about 18 hours. So for today's learning, respond in the final reflection for today. Discussion portion, in that discussion section, and you'll receive a certificate for 1 hour. Once you've submitted a complete text set, you'll post that link in the completed text set discussion section. After it's been reviewed, you'll receive an additional 18-hour certificate. And after review, we'll also reach out to you, and if you'll allow us, we would love to include your set on our site and build a bank of great resources for teachers around the country to use. As a final reflection, we'd love to hear from you and allow you to engage with others who are working virtually with you. In the And Finally section in this module, you'll see a link to Flipgrid. Click on the green X circle and post a video reflection of your learning, and feel free to respond to others' responses as well. Thank you so much for embarking on this journey, and we can't wait to see what you come up with.